Welcome to Tanked Up, the podcast about video games and beer. I'm Ben. That was Aadil. Oh, he's back.
I forgot to put myself on Twitch. Just forgot while we were waiting.
Brilliant. Good.
Yeah.
That's Aadil. And we're here with Lucy.
I'm Lucy.
Hey.
And I'm back.
Back? Did you go away?
Yes.
Oh.
Spiritually.
You've actually just been completely gone for the last 10 episodes or so. Just like, oh yes, it's me. Hello.
Hello.
Hey. How are you,
Hi.
Lucy? You good?
I'm alright, yeah.
Good.
How are you? How are you, Sue?
I'm alright. Busy.
I'm alright.
I'll mute my phone.
Let's open up some beers and start chatting about what's brought us here today. Video games. And hang out with these two lunatics as well. Aadil,
Hey,
what are you drinking this week?
a beer.
Which
Give me a
one?
second. Sorry, I was just doing that thing that I could have easily been doing in all of those minutes of casually being like, I'm ready. I've got nothing to set up. You guys, just do your thing. And then it's like, right, I have other things to set up. I've got
Loads
another
of stuff to actually do.
Yeah, I've got another Dutch beer from Uiltje Brewery. Uiltje?
Yeah, that's a very hard one to pronounce.
Yeah, it's the Trackdown Juicy Pale Ale, 5%. It's got a little graphic. Oh, sorry, didn't mute the Twitch.
Now,
Just knocking them out here, folks. It's got a lovely little cartoon, which I won't bother reading. But I will read the flavor text. Fueled by mischief and a monomaniacal mission to brew, F***King good beer. Sorry, Mom. We operate on the delirious fringes of hop culture. Not craft, but crafty beer with a sharp, uncompromised tongue from a medieval Dutch brewery town, Haarlem. We toy with the extremes, decoding beer with a hacker's lust for provocation, daring beer from a tiny owl that thumbs his nose at the mindless masses. Welcome home, my friend. Welcome home. And it says barley, wheat, malt, oats, and it just says hops. And the yeast appears to be DE.
Okay.
That's all I got. So juicy, 5.2% pale ale.
And Terry Crews anywhere in sight on that one?
Sadly, no.
Failed.
Trackdown, not
Trackdown.
Yeah.
that
Sorry,
was
here.
the same joke that I had in my head, but
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if I was going to...
Track.
I was
Oh,
going to ask if it was endorsed by Terry Crews.
I've actually drank that beer, and when
I know
I
you
read it, I thought it said Lockdown, and I thought, oh, what a clever beer they'd made. No, and then I read it, and I'm like, no, it doesn't say that whatsoever.
Also tells you where you're at in your life, right? Like,
Yeah. Lucy, what are you drinking this evening?
Tea!
What kind of tea?
The one that comes from a bag.
Fair enough. Nice. Week off.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this week, as in this time on the podcast, I don't think it'll last the full week. Yeah.
We get to tomorrow lunchtime, like,
Lunchtime? Morning? Hump day.
Oh, yes.
Lucy's gonna wait. Lucy's gonna sign off from the pod and be like, you know what really will help? A beer.
I'm going to drink a beer. This is from Pipeworks Brewing Company. New brewery for me. They're from Chicago. And this is Ninja versus Unicorns.
Ooh.
A double
Not
IPA
samurai.
pale ale. Not samurai. Ninja. Ninja. This is a very angry unicorn. Holding,
Oh yeah.
yeah, he's not
Is it,
happy.
I mean, it is holding what looks like a katana.
Well, and I think the ninja's
Oh,
got
he's
two
biting
and he's
it.
biting it. Yeah. He knows what's going down. It is 8%. That is, apart from the kind of standard American medical thing, there's nothing else on here. Doesn't tell me any ingredients. Doesn't tell me any allergens or anything whatsoever. What's on the bottom? Let's have a look. Oh, here we go. Oh. Ingredients: water, hops, yeast, barley.
Hmm.
That's it.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, little label on the bottom which tells me. Now I've got to try
Those
and
are ingredients.
open this very carefully and calmly, so just tipped it upside down. Aadil, how's your beer?
So on the pour, it came out. There was a lovely fruity waft just on the pour. Nose is reasonably strong, but not a lot going on. Just a little bit of just a crisp sort of citrus zestiness, maybe a slight sweetness, sort of like a lemon and tangerine. Quite a citrusy backbone to the nose. Well, that's super interesting. They weren't kidding about their, like, it's hoppy, but traditional, because you can taste that sort of Dutch, Belgian, more malty backbone to it. So it sort of starts with this citrusy, floral, standard, sort of juicy pale ale start, but then right in the mid of that taste, you're getting this much more malty, strong maltiness come through than on a traditional juice bomb pale ale. It's also, I think it's juicy for this style of pale ale, not juicy in general.
Sure.
Like, I wouldn't say it's like a juice bomb, which is kind of what I was expecting, having it called that. Again, like smaller Dutch breweries, it's got really good slightly velvety mouthfeel, even though it's 5.2%. It's a little thin on texture, but it clings. Does that make sense? So it coats, but doesn't sort of. It's not a thick coating. Taste doesn't last that long. It's very one and done. Like, this would be perfect earlier in the day when it was reasonably hot. And now, now that it's sort of evening time and you're sitting and chatting, I'd like more to linger. But kind of what lingers is that, not the juiciness, but sort of the maltiness of that sort of Dutch, just standard sort of Dutch pale ale taste, and then with a hint of that sort of like the slight lemoniness goes away really quickly, and you get this slight sweetness, orangey sweetness, maybe a little tropical fruit in there, but it's sort of hard, like, unless you're really looking, it just kind of like, yeah, it's a little juicy, but it kind of just fades to, yeah, this is just this Dutch beer ale aftertaste.
Yeah,
doesn't last long. Like, it lasts long in a very low key thing, so I can still taste it after rambling, but not a lot there. So I suspect this won't last too long, just because I like the beginning a lot, but unfortunately it doesn't stick around, and even what sticks around doesn't remind me of it, so it's not sort of as cohesive. Like, I'm fine if you want to sort of switch tastes, but it's nice when the finish reminds you of the journey you've gone through. Wow, that was a real pretentious way of saying what I said. I will sit by it. I can't change it. I said that. I'm a beer twat. What can you do? Okay.
Yeah. Okay, Hemingway.
How about you, Ben?
It's got a lovely nose to it. It's quite deep in colour. A little bit of haze to it. It's got a slight edge of translucence sort of on the edges of it, a little thicker in the middle. It's got a lovely nose, a lot of orange coming through, but also this kind of like candy sweetness almost. It's not quite bubblegummy. It's kind of more sweet orange, maybe kind of more clementine-y. That does come through in the flavour a little bit, but it's definitely pared back. It's not as sweet in the flavour as it is in the nose. There's a little bit more going on. Something maybe just pulling it down a little bit. Another sort of tropical fruit in there, but maybe something a bit more of like a tropical stone fruit. Something like a mango, perhaps, but something that's just dropping that flavour. So it comes off as a little drier, a little more pithy as well, and then ends with this sort of slight bitterness. And whether that's kind of the mango sort of, and it's maybe a little bit more of a ripe mango as well. I think that could be the 8% just creeping through a little bit too. but it does leave you with this very light bitterness that kind of stems in the middle of kind of mango and maybe more clementine, maybe a little bit of sort of maybe more. Yeah, I'd say it's maybe more orangey, more clementine than mango. But yeah, that pithiness leading into a little bitterness on the end. It's very nice. It's very easy. Definitely get a little bit more of the sort of that mango and that sort of slightly more boozy edge to it as well on a bigger gulp. You definitely feel that a lot more when you're taking a big sip. It's very for an 8% as well. It's not as thick as I thought it would be. It's quite thin, but it's very easy. You could mistake this if you sort of remove that sort of that pithiness and a little bit of the booziness to it. It could very well, kind of body wise, be a sort of a light IPA. 5.5%, 6%, something like that. So yeah, it's nice. It's easy. I'm gonna keep drinking it. It comes in a pint can. Which obviously is an American pint, not a UK pint. So it's not.
Yeah, what is? I always forget what.
I think they're 500ml.
Right, it's just a half liter.
Yeah. So.
What's the Americans once again?
I know. What's wrong with them, right? They've got no idea. Everything's a different measurement over there. So yeah, and it's a lovely can. Ridiculous.
Oh no, it's 473 mils.
Oh, is it? Well, yeah, okay. Close enough to.
Another reason I'm glad I don't live in America. Just saying.
Yeah.
Get the free healthcare over here. It's the pints. It's the pint sizes that make Britain.
That's it. That's what keeps you here, Lucy.
Yes. The only thing.
Oh. Brilliant. So, let's move on to our topics this week. Lucy, why don't you kick off this week? What have you been up to? What do you want to chat about?
I'm playing games. Nothing recent, I don't think. I've been dipping into... Instead of playing games that are recently released and I own, I think I've just been going into...
Backlog?
Not even the backlog, just the archives. The backlog is things that you want to play and consider playing eventually.
Then I don't have a big backlog.
Yeah, yours is tiny. There's thousands of games that you own. You don't want to play those.
Yeah, I have an archive. I don't have a backlog. I like that distinction.
Yes. I've been playing Halo today. Don't know why. It's a good podcast game. I've never enjoyed Halo. The little bits I've played. The aesthetic never appealed to me. I don't really like space. It's a sci-fi kind of stuff.
Fanboy.
No fanboys. No fanboy reason for disliking Halo. It's just never clicked with me. I've never disputed like Bungie's ability to make fun shooters. Their gunplay and all their game. Well, the games that I've tried, it's brilliant. And this is just it's competent enough for me to keep engaged with it. I'm about halfway through the first game. Don't know if I'll continue playing any more of the series, but I'm enjoying it. It's something just that I can just shoot along to, and it feels fine and it's fun enough. It's engaging enough. I haven't. This might sound damning, but it's exactly how I feel about like how I played Crackdown 3. Like it was just good enough as a background game, and it's undeniable like the cultural phenomenon that was Halo, and still kind of is. It's surprising how many people still love that series.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, that's undeniable, and what it did for first-person shooters on console and Xbox in general.
When you say, you think a little bit about Halo as you do about Crackdown, is that kind of more your thoughts on going back to it now, or do you think that that's how you felt when you kind of played it? What was it? When was Halo? 2005 or something like that?
Before that, 2002, 1,
Was it really?
2?
I might. Yeah, it must have been. It must be. Yeah.
The level design's great. Like it still holds up. Like I'm obviously playing the anniversary edition on the Halo Chief collection, but still absolutely holds up in terms of its level design. And there are some archaic things, but most of it, and there's a lot of corridors. That's what I always thought about Halo. I've never been interested in like the gun designs, the enemy aesthetics and designs and stuff like that. So it's never appealed to me, but I'm glad that I've gone back to it and given it a fair shake, you know? Because I remember playing Halo 3 and just being like, I cannot play this. This is boring. Like,
Yeah.
the story doesn't engage me. The art style doesn't engage me at all. So, but yeah, I'm glad I'm giving it a fair shake this time. And yeah, I can say that I've played it, and it's a good game. And the only thing that stopped me listening to podcasts immediately when starting it is the score. I've always liked
Yeah.
like Martin O'Donnell's score for that game. It's fantastic. So yeah, I've been playing that. I'll probably finish that in the next few days.
Nice. I think kind of from my perspective about Halo, obviously not being a big Xbox player, I played a lot of Halo at friends' houses, a lot of multiplayer, a lot of split screen. You get like 8 of us together or some, and link up some Xboxes and a couple of back-to-back screens and sort of make an evening of it. But I think it's got to be edging on one of the most recognisable kind of game franchises out there. Yes, they've had several entries, some of which have been better than others. I've only ever played the first 2 games and a little bit of the one where you're not Master Chief, ODST, I think is that one maybe. But like everyone knows the score, everyone knows kind of what Master Chief and Cortana sound like. You know those beats from the game. It's definitely one of the.
Absorb it through osmosis because it is
Absolutely.
that big.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, so like I actually mentioned to Lucy earlier today that my only experience with any Halo game was when I was doing my master's. I was in the flat above me, dorm essentially. The guy and my friend Alex had an Xbox 360, and he had a Halo game, and I played two or three multiplayer rounds because he had 2 controllers. There was like 3 or 4 of us. We just were doing the pass the remote round. Remote. Yeah, remote. Yeah. Why won't this man move? Pass the controllers around. And let's just say that evening, we were enjoying. What? Oh God, I just choked on.
He's just getting too excited about his experience with Halo at one time.
I was going to say we enjoyed some Amsterdam smoke. And that, so I don't have clear memories of my only experience with Halo except that night. And it was okay, but also it was before I really got back into consoles. So I was real bad with them joysticks, thumbsticks. And you can imagine how that not greatness, using years later, was really bad, was compounded by the previous mentioned air quality. That's
fine though. They're very generous with like the shooting. Like you have to be shooting in like a general direction and you'll hit the enemies, or anything. But it had to be like that. In like this is. You're gonna have precise control, but very lenient and generous. With
I think that's probably what being so popular was that you felt like you could play an FPS and do multiplayer because of that. A large part of it must have been the forgivingness, right? And as people got used to that control schema, we can add more like precision in subsequent games. But the reason why I brought up my lack of experience is I even recognize the score. Don't know anything else. I know what a Halo man looks like.
The Master Chief. Yes.
Yeah, that's about it though. And there's I used to know the name of the vehicle.
Which one?
Yeah, I was gonna say, my brain was like, Some animal grunt, but warthog grunt.
Awful to control in this game. So bad, but
Seems like
yeah,
the banshees
it's
and
fun.
things are just all over the place. Kind
God,
of,
yeah.
whoa.
I'm on this level where it's like it's never ending, and there's a lot of vehicle like combat. There's a tank in it, and it's like I just finished it before I got on this podcast. I was like, thank Christ. That's why I was a bit late, because I was like, I need to finish this, otherwise I'm just gonna yank the Xbox out of the wall. But recent games, actually, that reminds me. Speaking of Xbox, I played a bit of that Grounded.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
The Obsidian game. I went from zero interest into I wish this was a full release now kind of thing after I saw the most recent trailer, which was poking fun at Obsidian were poking fun at themselves because
Nice.
they're very much known for their RPGs, Pillars of Eternity and stuff like that. To be fair, like they made my favourite game in like 2014, which is South Park and the Stick of Truth. So I guess I have some like for Obsidian, but yeah, this is the early access Honey I Shrunk the Kids game, which is very much that. It's a survival game, and it's maybe because I don't really play many of that genre. I can still tell that it's got like kind of generic systems in it, like you gotta maintain your thirst and your hunger, and build a base out of materials and stuff like that. But I think it's just the cohesive vision that this game has got, which makes it appealing. It's appealing to like a part of me which I didn't know existed, which really wants like Honey I Shrunk the Kid aesthetics. So that's weird, but yeah, it really plays into that. Like it's got some cool things, like your thirst. By getting your thirst down, you take dew from like the leaves, and like most of your building materials like chopped down with just grass blades, and you can make like your own little fort inside of a aluminium can and stuff like that. It's someone had an idea, and it seems like the whole team were just like, yes, we want to focus on this vision. We want to make it just different enough from all those other survival games in terms of its aesthetic, and that it makes it feel fresh. Like how many games are like have bug-like enemies? Yet this feels different because it's like just normal bugs. They're not like any space bugs or anything like that. Just like normal ladybirds and ants and stuff like that. And yeah, it's promising.
Nice.
It's got a single player version to it, which is what I'll be playing. So yeah,
is there a plot to it, or is it just like
I think there's a loose plot, like you'll be surviving and stuff, but I think the crux of it is, why are you small? Why have you been shrunken? And
where
is
is
born
Rick
that way?
Moranis?
Yeah, I assumed it was either you're born that way, or because there's a giant Rick Moranis as the end boss.
I mean, that's probably where they'll go. But,
I don't think he'll be giant, even though you're tiny. Rick Moranis is not a big guy.
I mean, relative to you.
To an ant, yeah.
I mean, I did see a couple, an interview that sort of talked about the scaling and how when they scaled everything perfectly, certain things felt off. So
yeah.
if you are a stickler and you try to do approximate measurements, you will see that things like the Coke cans and stuff are bigger than they should be.
Right.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
When compared
Like
to the ants,
the first ladybird I saw, I was like, this is like 8 times the size of an actual ladybird. It's like 10 times the size of an ant. It's like, that's not really how it works. But yeah, but it's obviously, it's like, if you're making an open world game in a city, you're not going to make it actually built like a city, because that would be awful. So
especially because most cities are fucking not well designed.
Yes, they're not designed for streetcar races that have like Humvees and tanks rolling down the streets.
Eight lanes of traffic on a highway that never stops. Like, I'll just go for a race on it. It's fine.
Yeah. But yeah, it's promising, and I'm looking forward to see how they. fulfill that vision. It's quite polished already, but yeah, I think that it just need a bit of tweaking and balancing and stuff like that. So, and the arachnophobia mode is really cool.
Oh yeah, do you want to describe that just for?
Instead of having the full spider in the game, which is horrifying, even when you turn on the arachnophobia mode on, they're still horrifying. They come out of nowhere and just one hit kill you. But what it does is there's basically a slider that
a spider slider.
Yeah. Oh yes, the spider slider. The higher you go, the less features the spider has. So first they'll get rid of the hair, and then the legs, and then the fangs, and then eventually it's just 2 blobs. It can be 2 blobs coloured like a spider, and then it can just be like 2 white blobs that just.
But is there
just 2 white blobs floating around the garden?
Yeah, yeah.
What if I'm afraid of blobs and spiders?
Well, you shit out of luck then.
I guess you just put it in the middle, and you're like, I guess it's this.
No, but even like you just feel unsettled after playing that game, because it's just all those creepy crawlies. Like even the ants don't bother me, but it's like they're a bit. When you finish playing that game, you do feel icky.
I did notice it's got this very kind of bright, vibrant, almost not quite cartoony aesthetic, but it's sort of a tip towards that sort of way. Does that kind of the aesthetic that they've gone for, which is, I guess, trying to be kind of as appealing as possible and as vibrant as possible and pop and look really good, it kind of makes it feel like, this is the wrong word for it, but it makes it feel kind of a bit kiddie, more in the realms of something like Slime Rancher and those kind of games. There's really bright, cartoony games, and with that, does that kind of translate over into any of those like survival elements? Is it a more easy going game on those fronts, or is it kind of akin to the more hardcore survival games where you really have to watch those meters, or does it give you a little bit of leeway?
Yeah, it's not like crushingly difficult or super tough in like the survival aspects. It's not like The Long Dark, let's say. This is very much it's appealing to a wider audience. Kids are probably going to play it. I mean, kids are far better at survival games than me, so they probably know what they're doing way better.
I think that's just general in all games for all of us, really.
Yeah.
But you're playing as like teenagers, so they've got a very like it's very light-hearted, very like some of the text and dialogue and in-game menus are just written quite light-heartedly and funnily and stuff like that. So it's got that whole kind of playful vibe running throughout it. So yeah, I think the aesthetics match with the kind of gameplay and stuff like that. So. Cool. Yeah, it's not one of those that are crushingly hard and punishing. Like when I died, I respawned straight away. All that really happened was that my backpack was. I had to go retrieve it, but there was no other penalty other than that. Okay. So yeah, maybe there'll be different modes that are just like real survival mode or
different levels of difficulty or something like
Yeah, because I know State of Decay, for example, because that has permadeath. I think they it reintroduced like a easier mode recently into that game. So there's no reason why this couldn't have a like hard as balls mode or something like that if they wanted to in the end. So yeah, that was fun.
Nice.
Do you think you'll keep up?
What with the updates of playing it as I go?
More like yeah.
No, I prefer just to let the game release, play it when it's fully out. Yeah, I think they're going to have like monthly updates. I don't know when they were going to release it, like 1.0 version. But yeah, it's like, I tried it out, I'm interested, I'll let it, cook some more, and then when it's out, I'll give it another shot.
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
maybe get into that
what?
multiplayer a little bit, Ailus?
No, not a chance. Maybe if I really need help, you know, I'll just avoid the spiders. To be honest, they're not fun. They're just one hit kill you. So.
It'd be interesting to know how does it do you know how it deals with multiplayer? Is everyone kind of in the same play space? Because if you've got arachnophobia, you know, at some point on that sliding scale, can you then only play with people of the same point because you're all in the same instance? Maybe like.
Yeah, but your local graphics rendering, right? Like the graphics rendering is always done locally, so it's just swapping textures, presumably. The hitboxes and everything will stay the same.
Yeah.
Which means that there's no way to interact with individual hairs on spiders because we know they're not part of the hitbox.
It'll probably just be the body, yeah.
So you can't just jump on a spider and pull its hair. Bad game.
Yeah. Can't pet spider.
Want to do that anyway.
I love Lucy's look at that's the very preposterous thing I mentioned. She's like, no, of course not. That's awful.
Yeah. We'll just move on from that immediately. We are as PCA getting involved. One last game. I played a 26-year-old sequel to a point-and-click game called Beneath a Steel Sky. The sequel is called Beyond a Steel Sky.
I didn't know Beneath a Steel Sky had a sequel.
It came out on Apple Arcade and I think PC recently.
Yeah.
Yeah, about a month ago or something.
Wait, is the sequel 26 years old or is the original?
The sequel? No. Well, it depends on what you mean. It took 26 years for the sequel to come out. I don't think they worked on it for that long.
It's a new game that is a sequel to a 26
game.
That's what I was confused. I'm like, how did I never hear about this game?
Yeah.
I didn't because it didn't exist. Okay.
The original came out in 1994.
It was one of my first GOG games.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, it's free on Steam, free on GOG. I enjoyed it. I first played it this year because I'm a fan of Revolution Software. They make, I think they're most famous for their Broken Sword point-and-click series. So this was a few years before the first Broken Sword.
It's their first game?
No.
Their first big hit.
I think it was their first big hit. Yeah, it wasn't their first game, but it was. I think we can call it a cult classic at this point. People really speak highly of that game. The original, that is. Yeah. The sequel, Beyond a Steel Sky, does away with like the 2D pixel art. Take a drink. Everybody's keeping score of 2D pixel art references, but it does away with that formula and it goes to more 3D. Ostensibly, it really is just a point-and-click adventure game. It's like, speak to this NPC, get this object, and use this object here. So it's very much... It's got the same puzzles. I mean, it's very much in the style of those early 3D point-and-click adventure games, which were mostly bad, I think I can say. In like the late 90s, early noughties, that's really where like I fell off the train, and I think a lot of people fell off the point-and-click train because those were... It wasn't a good transition. Like when you look at something like Thimbleweed Park, you just think, why don't you just carry on with that formula? You know?
Because then you wouldn't have Thimbleweed Park, basically.
Yeah. Oh, I love Thimbleweed Park. What a sequel. Anyway, Beyond a Steel Sky, yeah, it very much has those teething issues of like those 3D games where nothing, it just doesn't feel as good. Okay. And the vision and the gameplay constraints are just so much more. Like in a 2D in a 2D point and click game, you can do all manner of things and go to, I think, more locales. You know, it's less. You know, the production values don't require full 3D modeling. They don't need these vast environments to run around in a 3D space. I just think there's so much more you can do for 2D game in that sense. So Beyond of Steel Sky feels very constrained by its budget and the production values, and not the vision, because they obviously had a vision. You are going back to Union City like in the first game, and it is like a more realized version of that, but you are very much in these individual and separate locales. You're not exploring a bigger world or anything like that. The story kind of shoves you into the next play space, which is there's only so much to do there. There's only so much to interact with, and the puzzles are very straightforward. It's like you use the crowbar probably like 20 times in this game, and like hardly anything else. There's no like things that in your inventory that need combining or.
Okay.
So it's.
I used it more than there's probably throughout the entire game you probably get like 10 items, and it's like,
really?
okay, yeah,
Oh, wow.
it's not a lot, and it's like, okay, I have this item, I can only use it on so many number of things.
Right.
That kind of puzzle solving seems to be absent in this game. What they instead rely on is a kind of it's kind of this hacking mini game that is a solution to far too many puzzles. They rely on it far too much. It's a cool concept where it's like you have this hacking mini tool, and you can basically change. It's sort of like programming language. It's like if A equals this, then B equals this, and it's like, okay, if I use this vending machine, it will dispense this can. If I have the right credentials. If I don't have the right credentials, it won't dispense the can. So I could change it so it's like, oh, if I don't have the right credentials, it will display this. It will dispense the can or something.
Right.
Like
Okay.
and then these things get layered, and you can introduce like new, different objects into that and stuff. It's kind of cool.
It's like a mini object-oriented like logic puzzling.
Yeah. That's cool, like the first couple of times, and then they use it like in almost every puzzle of the game, and it's like okay, I get it, and it's like so some of them are genuinely cool, but once you've seen that so many times, and you're just like, you're really relying on this mechanic.
Someone was very, very proud of that system.
Yeah, and as they should be, but not for the 20th time. So yeah, and it's just riddled with like glitches and bugs, and it's. I'm surprised I got through it all. I almost didn't, because I played it on Apple Arcade. I played most of it on my phone.
Okay.
And there came a point where it's like, oh, I'm ready to move on to the next place. These characters will talk, and it would just crash to whatever desktop is on an iOS device. And every time, and then I was like, okay, I'll go onto my iPad and see if it. Thank God it worked. It just managed to do it. It's got like iCloud saves and cross progression.
What
thank God.
which iPhone do you have, out of curiosity?
Oh, I don't know.
Oldish, young, newish.
No,
Why? iPhone.
I got this from
Why?
my cousin.
Oh, okay. I mean, I was just thinking like.
8S?
Okay, so
So not old. What's that? 3 years? I don't know.
yeah, I was just curious.
It's not old.
But I mean, this is one of the problems of a like sealed environment, that they try and pretend everything can run forever, but it can't. But also,
but I don't think it's the device. This game is just buggy as hell.
okay.
Yeah,
I mean, I do think
it's a problem.
Yeah, I do think that the bar needs to be higher for mobile games than other games for things like crashing, because you have no access to anything, and there's nothing you can do. And the premise of like mobile apps is that they work or they're slow. Like those, like they work or they're slow. You can't have it crash midway through. That's really bad.
It's not an isolated incident, because every review professional or user, they complain of like it crashes, and there's just bugs everywhere and glitches everywhere. It's like you see people without heads and people walking on top of other people, and it's a lot. I saved often, let's say. But it was probably, what, about 5 hours? It was nice to be back in that kind of universe, even though it wasn't as fully realised as could have been. But I don't know. What the real smacker was in the credits when it said, produced by Apple. I'm just thinking, Apple, you couldn't have given these people a little bit more time or something to
just a little bit more money,
iron out the bugs.
another month.
Yeah, maybe they went over budget. Maybe we don't know what Revolution Software did, but surely you could have given them enough time. Maybe some poor QA, tester in Cupertino or wherever their bases are in San Francisco or whatever, and just say, like, kid, just QA test this for us, please. Yeah, sit in a room for 10 days and QA.
I know from a few things that I've read that Apple Arcade and Apple moving forward with this program and kind of the games that they are willing and wanting to pump money into have been more on the recurrent income side, and they have just cancelled some projects that were in kind of full swing that didn't fit with their new kind of model that they wanted them to. Maybe this kind of was at a point where they suddenly went, it needs to be out in the next month, or we're just going to cut it. You've got a month just to be able to put it out. It doesn't fit with kind of the ethos that we're now moving towards, or the games that we want to be putting out there. We want people to come back to Apple Arcade every month or every week to check the progress of this game. They want something like a Pokemon Go, where you keep up your subscription every month to continue to play one of those kinds of games.
That makes sense. Yeah.
I mean, it also makes sense because after the initial burst of games, the biggest complaint after like month 2 or 3 was, I played all you gave me a bunch of cool games. I love this. This is the greatest. And it's like, now there's no more new games, or the ones that are new aren't like nearly as gripping. Like, it's a problem when you launch a service like that with this all-star standard type of game lineup, but they didn't leave anything for month 2 or 3. They just, I guess, expected that more people would, like, more developers would just sign on, I guess, or I don't know, or didn't have foresight, and then it's just become, I've heard from a lot of people, it's just kind of a desert of, once I'm done with these games, I might come back in a couple months and re-renew. But obviously, the way these subscription models work is you kind of have to not ever cancel.
Yeah, because there was recent updates for like Grindstone and What the Golf and stuff like that. So, as you say, I think they are very much leaning into that kind of model. The recurrent user or whatever of a gross marketing corporate term they use. But I'm an exception to probably most people who have ever subscribed to Apple Arcade, where I really like some of these games. It's nice just to there's a lot that they usually release one every week, and the quality's been good so far. I think this is eventually Apple Arcade will just be something that I remember fondly. I don't think it's gonna stick around all too long.
It's gonna be like Pandora. Everyone in the States is like, man, that was the best streaming music service and recommender service. And then now it's like, what? I don't know, Spotify's fine.
Or Napster.
I think I'll just remember it fondly. Thought, I got a fair, decent deal paying, £5 a month and playing all these decent games. That it'd be interesting if these games could be found anywhere else. But that's the whole crux of the service. It's like, in terms of like the mobile space, obviously these games come to PC and stuff like that, and it seems like even a shorter runway that they get on Apple Arcade before taking off on other systems, like Necrovirista was a week. Beyond a Steel Sky was maybe 2 weeks to a month. So I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing, but like, I'll take advantage of it once it's here.
Good. Let's crack open another beer. Are you ready, Aadil?
I can be.
Okay.
Why don't you
Chug it.
start, and I will rinse my glass.
Sure.
I didn't bring two.
I am going to drink another double IPA.
Oh.
And again, it's another new brewery for me. This is Of Juice, number 3, from Three Hills Brewing.
Ooh,
It
nice.
is 9%. It tells me right on the front, under the title, it's got Cryo Mosaic, Citra, and Mosaic BBC in it. It says, and I've not had anything from Three Hills before, but I've seen them around probably since lockdown in various different. Like I think I saw them with cans which just had printed white sticky labels on some of them. You know that sort of stuff. But Three Hills is a small batch brewery located in a countryside village, Northamptonshire. Sourcing inspiration and ingredients globally, we produce cutting-edge seasonal styles brewed expertly for maximum enjoyment. Of Juice is a double IPA designed to fulfill all those fruity, tropical, juicy, hop-based needs. And yet the hops were Cryo Mosaic, Citra, Mosaic BBC. The malt is extra pale Maris Otter, Best Ale and Carapils, oats and wheat, and the yeast is New England Ale. Drink fresh, vegan, friendly. I mean, it's vegan, I guess then? Or is it just friendly with vegans?
I like vegans over there, but they don't cater to them.
Right, I'm going to open this. Aadil, what have you got?
Yes, I have a beer that you probably also have had because it is from the same box.
Ah!
Oh no,
Oh.
Ben! What are you, me?
Yeah, I was about to say that's
That's alright, it's just
an ideal move.
It's only gone all over my leg.
That's fine. That can be what?
I've
Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. I've got the Resonance Coconut and Chocolate Stout from the Moersleutel. Moersleutel? God, my Dutch is terrible now. The beer.
Oh yes, I did have that one.
Beer engineers. Oh, I think I might have turned autofocus off, so now I'm just making a blurry face at you guys on screen. Okay, it's got water, malted barley, hops, coconut, cacao nibs, lactose, and yeast. So it's a coconut and chocolate milk stout. So I assume that by not calling it a milk stout, they're directly that it might have just a low amount of lactose. This might be just sort of stitching taste together. But it is a hearty 8% in a standard 330ml can. Also, I love the sound, like the waveforms art, and then the like late 90s home animation font. Like I used this font when I did videos in the like AV club back in high school.
There's definitely some low end metal or like grimecore bands that have used that font on their albums. Yeah, absolutely. I've not poured my beer fully into the glass. It's very heady. Look at it. It's definitely bubbly. It's definitely going. It's going.
God. Sorry, I just took a sip from the top of my can and made noises. Where do I want to take this picture?
This is very, very. Did they say it was like Cara Pills or Cara Malt or something in this? It's definitely Cara Pills. It's definitely got that kind of like caramelly, almost toffee kind of nose to it. Not a huge amount of fruits in there coming off of the hops on the nose. Ooh. It's a similar colour to the previous beer actually, but a little thinner perhaps in its appearance, a little bit more translucent than the last one. Carbonation, which is massive, bubbled up out of the can, big thick head, which has dissipated a little bit, but will very much be there when I pour it back in. Doesn't come through in the mouthfeel at all, but it's an odd flavour. It's got this kind of... It's very, very malty, and it's got this richness to it that definitely kind of edges on a sort of slightly caramel, slightly biscuity kind of note. You know those digestives which are chocolate covered, but they've got a caramel layer on them as well. It kind of, minus a little bit of the chocolate, it's almost, it reminds me of that. This said it was going to be a tropical juicy double IPA, but I'm not getting that at all. This is very malt forward. I mean, there are some background fruits in there. Again, hard to pick those out because I'm really just getting that nice caramelly, biscuity sort of flavour to it. I don't know whether however they condition this, and just that amount of carbonation that has kind of exploded and then disappeared really quickly has caused a bit of a lack of those kind of tropical fruits coming through. But it's maybe not quite as big as the flavour text led me to believe. I do not feel or get on the flavour the 9% at all. That is hidden really, really well. And, okay, having a little bit out of the can now, just getting a little bit more of the tropical fruits. They're starting to creep through a little bit, maybe a little bit sort of passion fruity. A little bit grapefruity as well. That's sort of just kind of there, but not really presenting itself very much. It is definitely led by those slightly biscuity, slightly sweet, caramelly malts, which in itself is lovely and is a very nice taste to have. It isn't quite what they said they were going for, but we'll see how it goes as I drink. Aadil, we'll come to you. How's the coconut stout? Coconut stout or coconut porter?
Coconut and it's a stout. It's a coconut and chocolate stout. So I took a small sip of the remnants that get stuck on the lip when you pour, and coconut. You smell it. The nose is quite sweet and coconutty. It smells like when you desiccated coconut that some people bake with. First time you crack a bag, get that hit of that sweet coconut. It's exactly that. And maybe a little bit of the end of the nose has got some deeper maltiness, gives the nose less one note. But it immediately is like, well, coconut. Yep, I get why you called it coconut.
Nice.
It's 8%.
No, go on.
It's 8%. It's a stout. It's quite thin. Like I was expecting it to be more velvety with the lactose, and the stoutiness. Oh, that is super interesting. Okay. So I was gonna say it starts quite sweet. That lactose is just making it sweet. The coconut is there. Takes a while to be displaced. And unfortunately, because of the sweetness, and like I said, because it's and the nose even sort of harkens to this, that lactose sweetness and that coconut kind of makes it taste like fake coconut. Yeah. When you gotta keep like a Bounty bar, which I like, Bounty bars, but they're not. They don't have a depth of coconut flavor. But what's interesting is, right as the mid, sort of the peak of the taste curve, it sort of switches gears, and the cacao nibs kick in, and it's like, oh, kinda maybe chocolatey coffee. And you're like, wait, what? What just happened? Which is why I interrupted myself, which I'm assuming is what you were gonna say earlier, Ben. It's it's like literally bewildering the first
Yeah.
couple of sips. You're like, oh yeah, bounty. Whoa, coffee. Wait, what? And except for that moment of switching, I like both sides. But again, I think the lactose and the coconut are the lactose is not doing the coconut any flavors, any favors, any flavor favors.
Just let go of one letter there. That's all he needs.
Yeah.
Wait. Yeah.
But those cacao nibs. It's not. It is cacao. It's not quite coffee, but I think the lingering bitterness and like it leaves you super dry. Like it gets bitter and dry and like bitter and coffee, cacao dry really quickly. But like the mouth feels actually like my mouth isn't actually dry. It's just it. I think it's that huge gear change coupled with it's really rich cacao nibs. It's not chocolate. It's not milk chocolate, right?
Yep.
And I think that's what drove me to coffee at first, because it was like, oh, that bitterness in the cacao. It's like, oh, this is coffee. This is just like chocolatey coffee. But it's not. It's cacao nibs that make me feel like I want to get rid of. Like it's almost too strong, even without the gear change. I kind of like I keep. I'm talking, so I'm not reaching for it, but I keep, even though my mouth, like the texture is and the mouthfeel are not dry at all. I'm like, kind of want to get rid of this lingering aftertaste. I kind of just don't like it as much. I think it overstays its welcome. Like I liked it initially. I was surprised by it, continuously surprised by it, but I like the cacao-ness, but then it stays that strong while everything else fades. And then you're like, now it's one note, and that note is like super strong cacao, and I'm not sure I want that to be lingering in my mouth for 45 seconds. So maybe I'll take another sip. What are you had it? So
I did, and I thought very similarly. Like I'm not a big coconut fan in beers, but this sort of worked for me because of that switch. And the switch happens quite quickly. You're kind of assailed with coconuts, and then it's like, oh, there's something else happening here. And I remember drinking it very quickly. It was after, I think, that box had maybe 4 or 5 stouts in it.
Yeah.
And I think I drank that one, which it may have been the 3rd stout of the night that I'd had. So I was kind of already accustomed to a few more of those flavors. And I can definitely see why you move away from kind of coffee on that back end of that beer. But I think I enjoyed it. I think it's a coconut beer that I've enjoyed much more than any of the other coconut beers because it's doing something slightly different. It's not just a coconut beer. So
yeah. Yeah, like I said, I was just shocked by that gear change. Whoop.
Let's talk more about this beer while Lucy does what she needs to do before we move into our next topic.
So, yeah, I'm hoping that I'll get used to the bitterness, like the strength of the cacao, because I really like all the individual pieces except that lingering finish.
Yeah.
And I mean, it would just be ideal if I got acclimatized, because then it would just be like, what? I mean, let's go through. If you go through the back catalog, boy, does Bill like to say, "I love a challenging taste curve." This is the first beer in a long time that's like really like been like, nope. Like just like, I thought I was at a peak, but it turns out I can't think of it as a single curve because it's actually like two-dimensional. There's another vector where it's like, I'm peaking twice in quick succession, but I'm peaking coconut and then I'm peaking entirely not coconut.
It's not a nice taste sort of wave. It's absolutely sort of some odd, awful graph where you get kind of to the top and it just drops down and then starts again as a different flavor.
I think the key is that it's not a continuous curve, right? Yeah. It's like, hop somewhere else in this taste space now. Just left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Well, you drink it. See if it grows on you a little bit more. See if that finish does sit with you a little bit better as you get through it. I kind of leading on slightly from what a comment Lucy made, and we were talking about earlier, about the representation of a city within open worlds and how that wouldn't happen. I actually wanted to talk about open world games. Having played still some more Ghost of Tsushima, I'm nowhere near the end of that game. It is massive. The world is massive. There's loads of stuff to do. There's tons of quests. So I don't know whether it feels too big. I think my tastes have changed very slightly in wanting different things from kind of an open world game, and the length or the breadth and the openness that I actually want from them. But I kind of wanted to pose the question to both of you, and I'll give you some time to think while I kind of give my thoughts. But have either of you come across an open world game that you've actually felt comfortable with the size of the open world, something that has worked quite well? And I only really think of two examples. They're both very, very different. The first is Mad Max. Wasn't massive, but because of the car element to it, which it revolves around quite heavily, it needed to be a nice wide open space. And actually that game felt comfortable in moving between kind of mission points and kind of stuff on the map that you sort of found, that you weren't drive for 10 seconds at something else, drive for 10 seconds at something else, drive for 10 seconds at something else. It allowed you a little bit of freedom to, drive the car and feel it and into it and get into a bit of combat and do some stuff, and then present you with something where you may get out of the car and go and do, or a town that you go and do kind of a mission on. And it's a game which I think lent itself very well and scaled itself very well, based upon the sort of the two elements that it tried to do with the car, the traversal around the world, and the car combat that it brought, but also then the kind of the on foot sections and moving around the little encampments and the forts and things. And I felt that was a very well scaled world for the kind of those two elements that it was trying to do. But also, and Sucker Punch's previous game, Infamous Second Son, wasn't a massive game, wasn't a huge world, but it had some nice distinct areas. It was full, it had things to do. It wasn't a long game, and
I didn't like that open world, but it wasn't. I don't know, I can't remember. It was so long ago.
It was
like
was
6
really
years ago.
Yeah, it was more. It must be 7 maybe 7. Yeah. But it kind of, in my mind, that's one that sort of sticks with me. Like, I didn't linger too long in this space. I didn't kind of outstay my welcome sort of anywhere, and that does lead on to kind of Spider-Man, the PS4 exclusive Spider-Man a little bit as well. But that did feel sort of the right scale for what they were trying to achieve with the web thing. There was a little bit too much maybe going on. I felt myself stopping too much in that game, perhaps, to do certain things. Stop enemies in certain areas, go to the research stations to do little side missions, and I didn't get to do maybe as much kind of swinging around the city in that as say in comparison to Mad Max, which gave me the freedom to kind of just drive and do things on the fly and stuff. Spider-Man maybe felt a little bit more full. Infamous, I think, or Second Son had a very good balance in what it was trying to do, at least from my memory of it from X number of years ago. But they're kind of the only two games that I can really think of that I think had a good scale and a good balance in how full they were in terms of the open world. And Ghost of Tsushima, it's almost there. Like, the balance between the amount of stuff in the open world and how far you have to travel and things is balanced very well. It's just so big that it is a 50-hour game rather than a 30-hour game, or at least that's what it feels like currently to me. Lucy, I'll start with you. You're not the biggest open world player, but you have played some of the more notable games like Red Dead and Breath of the Wild and things. So, is there anything that sticks out to you as being kind of on point in terms of the open world?
I think where this is a hard question to answer is not exactly what I feel constitutes as an open world game, but more so that I think what you're alluding to is like the structure. Like these are open world games in the sense that there's a through line story, but you have this open, hopefully dynamic, open space. But like, there's so many games that are like, quote unquote, open world that I don't really feel that are like open world, because like something like Prey is, you have the whole space station. It's an immersive sim, so it's like, oh, you do need these certain abilities to access different parts of this spaceship, but a lot of it is open, so I wouldn't call that an open world game, but it uses its world to good effect in that sense. Whereas, I don't know, something like, it's hard because Horizon Zero Dawn, I think I just get out of open worlds what I want. It's like, if with Spider-Man, it's like the game was fun enough to do all those mindless things, because a lot of them were mindless, like catching pigeons or something like that. So I think it's how much I'm engaged with like the mechanics, and like if I want to create my own fun, like in terms of like a GTA or stuff like that, or a Red Dead, and just because Red Dead is huge. It's probably too big, but I got what I wanted out of that world. I explored enough of it. I didn't need to explore every nook and cranny. Like there's a checklist on Red Dead that's would probably take someone 800 years to get through. So, but I got enough out of that, out of the story, and stuff like that. I don't even if it's an open world game, I rarely interact with everything that open world has. Not to say that what's been put in there is not good. I mean, I'm sure every side quest in like The Witcher is fantastic. Does the world need to be that big? Probably not. But if I was to go through The Witcher and then all the way through and enjoy the story and the few side quests that I enjoyed, I'd be fine with that. I think it's when I think people think like with open world games they have to do everything, like, and I'm just not that person. It's like there may be this checklist, there may be this Assassin's Creed question marks everywhere. I can leave all that crap, like
God, I'm getting better at that, but that used to be my Achilles heel in these games, was like completionist angst.
No, because like any race, I'm not going to do it because they're not fun. Racing in open world games is never fun. So I just leave it.
Fucking fact.
Yeah, it's like Horizon.
True, unassailable fact.
Apart from Burnout
Zero
Paradise.
But that's a that's a racing.
Why you gotta do me like this, bro?
Yeah, because like Horizon Zero Dawn, like I don't really think about how big or small that world was, because I didn't care about uncovering every quest or doing every hunter's mission or stuff like that. So they feel as big as or as small. If the game's boring and like a lot of the side quests and what fills that world is boring, then the world's too big.
Sure.
If it's like, oh, I enjoy what's going on, the game's fine for me. Even if it's huge, I'm never gonna interact with everything unless it's something like Spider-Man, where I can just, it's easy and the gameplay was fun enough where I didn't mind doing that. So if I can turn my brain off, like in Mafia 3, I always consider that like just a single player game, because the open world is nothing. But
cool.
Yeah, it's Crackdown 3 is my answer.
That's a good answer.
Just throw it out there at the end. Sure.
Yeah,
we'll finish on that and move to Aadil.
Yeah. So, boy, I want to say stuff to what Lucy was saying, but actually, I think I'll pause and just give my two answers, and then go on and right. Sleeping dogs.
Ooh.
Nice.
Best GTA clone, probably does GTA 4 better than GTA 4 or anything after. Like I think it's such a great moment of like why everyone liked GTA 3 and San Andreas and Vice City, and it gets the size right, gets the world interaction right. Sure, there's like 4 buildings you can go into, but that doesn't matter. It's not about having intricate architectural layouts on 7 buildings so it makes the world feel bigger, because like GTA 5 has, you can go in some buildings, and when you go into them, they're real buildings. They're not just some shitty room. But also you can't go into most buildings.
Yeah.
So I think this like race to make it big and more detailed, because we don't have the power to do that, and it's just not worth anyone's time to fully model every, like, you're a criminal, you should be able to break into almost every house. So if you're going to say houses have layouts, fuck you, I want to go into every house. Obviously that's not going to happen, right? But I've already tangented myself out. I actually think Crackdown 1 is one of my favorite open world games because it's silly and small.
Yeah.
And I think both of them do this thing that Lucy sort of touched on but didn't immediately say, and so did you, Ben, with Mad Max and Spider-Man, is traversal, right? Traveling through the world has to be fun. It's a bad thing for an open world game to make me want to fast travel. Unless I'm like running out of time or whatever. But like, I know so many people say like Spider-Man is a game where fast travel exists, but why the fuck would you use it? Right?
I use that because, like, at the end of the day, I wanted to get through the story.
Yeah,
and I was
but
like,
I'm
some
saying,
of those
like,
transitions are really fun as well.
Yeah, but I'm
see,
saying like the fact that people might pause and be like, "Look, this is going to take me 10 minutes, but I might do that instead of just skip non-integral part of game." That means you've got the setting and movement in the setting. And as these games have gotten bigger, traversal is most of your time in the game, and that's why it's so important, right?
Yeah, Roach is awful.
Which is why, like, Ghost of Tsushima, the fact that they've really done a good job of horse mechanics, apparently, is really important. Because
speaking of
otherwise...
traversal, my real answer, well, second answer, Crackdown 3 is a real answer, but Sunset Overdrive. I did everything in that world.
It's one of the few games I didn't finish, and I like when I was getting rid of my Xbox, I was like, I really want to go back to that game. That's so what, like one of the few things where it's like, oh,
on PC.
Is it now?
Yes.
Is it on Game Pass on
I'm
PC?
pretty sure.
Are you just saying?
I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so.
But yeah, I'll go back to that.
Sunset Overdrive 2 for PS5, and I might buy one.
Yeah. So like with Sleeping Dogs, it was because it's Hong Kong and obviously gamified Hong Kong. It's very small but has very distinct areas.
Yes.
And actually, traversal for the first like few hours of the game was torture because Hong Kong is British side of the road. And all the games I've played have catered to my North American normal. Like in the number of times I like tried to like speed around a corner and just plowed into something because I thought, oh, I'll have time to dodge around someone going the same direction, but me going faster. Not the same when they're like coming at their speed. It's like, oh, right, shit, oh no, I've killed myself again this same way. But I also think that for that game, the plot, the narrative held me, and it made sense why you were traveling across. It didn't feel like, go talk to this guy over there so you can see the open world, and then he's going to point you back over pretty much here so you can fight this guy who turned out to be next door, or at a third place on the map, because this will make you see all the effort we put into it. It had the narrative made sense that you would have to go all over Hong Kong, and so the traversal seemed plot forward. And it was fun. And I think the big problem I have with a lot of open world games is when it seems arbitrary. Like, obviously, a story's not going to be like, yeah, all the people you need to care about are in this 6-block radius. But like when it's ping-ponging you, you know someone's designed this, and you're like, this is bad quality of life, and you chose to make it this way. Unless there's a reason, right? Like with Mad Max, the space between mattered, right? For the narrative, you're going through the desert.
Yeah. It's a tough thing, yeah. I think what you're alluding to, Aadil, is a lot of it is structure, whether that's traversal, story, what the side quests are, if there are any, and just the content of the game. Like, if something's repetitive all the time, just the same thing, that would grow on anybody,
Yeah, I think the key is that, like you said about Horizon, it's an open world game that you don't have to treat as open world.
Because
it carves its own linear path through and allows you to jump around. And I think that's probably my favorite type of open world game, where if there's rewards for exploring, etc. But I also I think it's either Crackdown 1 is narrative doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Just get bigger, better, and you can go to new places and and because your superpowers also, it's kind of Metroidvania in that sense, right? You get to new parts of the map by being able to jump higher, etc. And so in that sense, having a wide, expansive map makes sense, because every time you loop around, you will experience new things because you couldn't before.
Yeah.
Versus a lot of games feel like it's either an open world game that they tack a narrative on, or a narrative they tack an open world on. And yeah, we have the technology to make a lot of games open world, but I think the worst thing is where the narrative is kind of a tight corridor with some branching paths, which is kind of I think a good recipe for maybe slap an open world, because then maybe I'll pick different. If your narrative is flexible enough, I can take a different. I need to hit these 7 nodes, but maybe I can take a different path. Maybe there's an extra 14 nodes, distributed, that are side quests, and every person will have a different story. Great, open world. But when you put those 14 nodes on a map that's could easily have 407 spots,
yes,
that's you get the witness.
It's sorry,
you get the witness.
Yeah,
a really good open world game. Yeah, best open world game, The Witness.
But that, I think
we figured it out.
The race to big without without
it
being big for big's sake is terrible, and we have the technology to make really big, and
and I think that's
where you get side quests that are just filler instead of side quests that are side quests.
And we've seen a lot of open world games this generation. I think that's only going to continue into the next, as people have a little bit more power to play with and a little bit more load speeds and things like that. They can generate bigger spaces quicker, so draw distances can be a little bit bigger, and people will take advantage of it. Again, Ghost of Tsushima, Breath of the Wild. If you can see it, you can go there and get up it.
Breath of the Wild and Red Dead are the only games I've played in probably the last 15 years where I've been interested to know what's around every corner, and I know something different is going to come around every corner, and those are the only 2 examples I can give. I think they are just top of their class in terms of what makes an open world fun.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Breath of the Wild, I can't believe I didn't mention earlier, but it does open world in a very unique way that you wouldn't expect. It does reward exploring for exploring's sake, and I think part of that is you are limited, then you get your horse, then but it is kind of like Crackdown in the same sense of as you upgrade, you think, do I want health or do I want more stamina? So I can find more things, explore more. That's a way of rewarding, and like I said, Metroidvania-ing, allowing access to the world based on your progression, and because the world's dynamic enough, rewarding your making you want to not just be well, why don't I just be a tank so I can beat the game? Beating the game is not the point, right? The exploration is the point, and highlighting that is key. I was gonna say another thing about Breath of the Wild now. Oh, and the other thing, Blood Moon, right? By having it, so Crackdown is kind of the same. This is really interesting. Crackdown
is Breath of the Wild.
No, but like, so in Crackdown, there's permadeath. Crackdown 1, there was permadeath on some enemies, and you could reset.
Okay.
Right? I think so. It's been a long time. It was something about resetting
and
and then being able to replay, but like, and with Breath of the Wild, like mobs stay down. Sorry, moblins. Stay down. Except every so often, and you're not sure quite when. I'm sure there's some website that'll tell you, because someone's figured the algorithm out that suddenly everything respawns, which gives you a sense of like conquering through the world, but also means that sometimes nope, now you got to redo things. But rather than having it on most games, it's like you as soon as the buffer of the because you're just a window moving through an unrendered space. And you're just a big window in modern games. But most games now, as you move through the window, either it just respawns everything that's not in the window, so you're like, oh, I actually want to turn around and take this other path. Fuck, now these guys are back. Yeah. Or they just stay dead forever. And the Blood Moon mechanic on Breath of the Wild was really smart, where it's like, yeah, you killed them. You conquered that place. Cool. It's safe. Until the game explicitly tells you, nowhere is safe now. You don't have to worry about... has this part respawned or whatever? It's just like, no, we've put all the bad guys back.
Yeah.
But also you're better at the game, so all the places, yeah, you have to kind of finagle things, but a lot of the time you can outrun them, so you can pick and choose based on your memory of how much you liked fighting that bit. Like, it's really well designed that way.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, like, what I heard from Adam and you, Ben, your conversation with Ghost of Tsushima is that they've tried to take some like stylings of like Breath of the Wild, like, oh, we're gonna put this wind in here, so it's like it's very dynamic. We're trying to coax you to go to that area, but we're not just gonna give you an hour on the floor. We're gonna try and do it,
yes, passively.
Passively. Yeah. But at the end of the day, you are still going and checking off boxes in that game. Like
absolutely.
So, they it's like okay, how do we make it so that we're not having this complaint where players feel like they're too guided? We'll do this, but no, it's still built around that same structure.
It is, yeah, absolutely.
It's a bummer because like Infamous Second Son was the same thing by the sounds of it, just less pretty. It's like it doesn't seem like they have improved. I won't say that, but it doesn't seem like
they haven't innovated.
Game design 101. Yeah, they haven't innovated, and it's like, come on.
In some ways, absolutely. In some ways, they have. In some ways, they have. They've innovated on kind of what they have produced previously and changed stuff up a little bit, but it isn't a huge leap. And it isn't the leap that kind of you would expect from the start of and the end of a generation, perhaps. It's only a few quality of life and slightly more immersive touches that they've put in, rather than a complete overhaul. Ghost of Tsushima is not the pinnacle of open world games, which you kind of would expect kind of towards the end of a generation which has produced so many open world games from a studio that produced and released one of the first, to then have a look at all of these other ones and all these other things, and to be able to learn and iterate on and change. It hasn't done enough to be a kind of a standout open world title at the end of a generation, at least where I would like it to be.
I'm just wondering, like, who are all these people who like open world games and just want nothing but open world games and want devs to make nothing but open world
they've all been fired from Ubisoft, so they'll be buying games soon enough, so I wouldn't...
I think I can answer that, though, in all seriousness. I think it's people who, like, maybe can't buy every game. And it's like, look, this game is going to be 7 million hours. So
but
I get my $80 worth.
But do those people still exist?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, especially now.
I don't know.
Especially now, like with people losing jobs and job precarity, I think we're going to have more people.
I thought they just played FIFA or...
No, the FIFA.
I mean, it's the same. It's It's a
people
different
who
crowd,
don't
but
like
it's the
sports
same
games
crowd.
doing the same thing.
Yeah,
They're just like open world games.
yeah.
And
Well,
they just
yeah.
want,
They like
they
action
they just
games.
want-
They like action games. They would play through all of the action games possible, but you know
maybe I
they
just
say,
don't
well,
know anybody personally who's like not into games as much as us, but wants just all that filler. You know, I don't know.
We should just ask Alfred. He claims to be the AAA
yeah.
fan.
Imagine playing every open world game released in a year.
I mean, you can. I mean, you could play them all, but you couldn't play them
I'd
all.
put a bullet through my skull before I did that. I'm sorry.
No, that's one of the games, Bullet Through the Skull. You've just never heard of it because there's a glut of open world games.
It's the spiritual successor to Sleeping Dogs, but it's
God, I would love a Sleeping Dogs too.
yes. Oh yes, absolutely.
It's called like Yakuza, like all those
Yeah.
20 games.
I mean, those games also have a rabid fan base, and part of it is
Yeah.
just how much time you can spend in it, right?
Yeah.
I guess.
Because there's all these mini games, and they're all different.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's definitely people who want to spend.
I suppose because
hundreds of hours in games,
people
but
play
don't like
GTA
RPGs.
still. Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess you're right. Yeah, because people will just buy GTA because it's
Yeah.
a big open world.
Oh, why buy it? It'll if you just wait enough years, it'll be given away for free on Epic Games Store.
Again.
Yeah.
Apparently, it sold better after it went for free. So.
Well,
Yeah,
because
'cause I got-
everyone's like, I got this game for free. You should play with me.
Yeah.
Also, I'm assuming they made fucking boatloads on. Give me
Alright.
2 billion. I didn't spend money on this game. I want to catch up to people online. So
I'll do all the
I'll just spend
in-store monies.
20 quid on cash so I can
Shark
buy
cards.
some whatever you can buy. Probably like boats that turn into
Jackets.
planes.
Jackets.
I don't know what
Hats.
GTA Online is like now.
Skins
Also-
for your
probably.
guns. I don't know. I don't know.
Sunglasses
I
for
don't
your
know.
guns.
Yeah, I don't know what the fake mustaches for your guns. I don't know what the economy in GTA is like, but I mean, there
I
must
don't
be.
want to
Like,
know.
how
I don't want to go down that rabbit hole.
how is there anyone in this
Oh,
world
it turns
that
out
doesn't own
the
GTA
new type of
5?
domicile you can buy because they've done like penthouses and houses and like on the edge Miami style or LA style, like huge, expansive 7-bedroom mansions. Yeah, Rabbit Hole is the new expansion. You too can go
GTA
down the rabbit
Nuclear
hole. in GTA
bunker.
5.
GTA Online is what I thought I wanted when I was 11. And
Yeah.
Oh no,
I
that
was
is exactly
wrong.
what you wanted when you were 11.
Oh, so no,
Yeah,
but I didn't want
sure.
to. I mean, kind of, but like not when I was 11, but like maybe when Lucy was 11. But like I was convinced that the best MMO that could be made was the San Andreas gang mode.
Absolutely.
I've said this before
yes.
on the
Oh,
on the
yes.
podcast, right? And just you fight. You've got this ginormous city, and you just fight for your like for greater gang territory with your 5 friends, and it's semi-persistent. And then when GTA Online came out, and you're like, it's kind of just a really big deathmatch map-ish, but also you can make weird ramp things. That's as much as I know. Like, there is like pick up a package and deliver it mode, and then there's like also custom maps, something.
yeah, I think Ben got it right straight off the bat. We're too old.
Yeah.
We're all too old.
It's true.
Yeah, like I've never Fortnited.
No,
I even had
Why?
I was given
Oh,
a
really?
OG
Yeah.
Fortnite, like OG Fortnite, not PUBG mode.
Save
is
the
all-
Save the
world.
world. Yeah.
Is that still
Yeah.
in the game?
I don't know, but I was given a code because,
What?
yeah, friend of Out of Lives, one of our friends of Out of Lives had got like the Founders Pack or whatever, which came with free codes,
Oh,
and gave
I
me one of them.
remember that. Yeah.
And I was like, cool. And I booted it up once. I was like, and I played the intro mission. And I was like, oh, I get how building walls work. And then I thought I would play with the 2 or 3 people who were around who had codes. And then we never really got together. And then I just, for other reasons, we leave off the podcast. We didn't interact with that person anymore. And then it was like, cool, blah. And then it was like, now it's a free game and also a totally different game. And I was like, huh.
And the rest was history.
And
Yeah.
it's like that's just gone Fortnite
Like my
is
only
forever
Fortnite
gone from my
experience
mind.
is the tutorial mode to the OG game, which is basically not a thing.
Yeah. I'm surprised that's still
It's
around.
worse than my Halo experience.
I've never even downloaded Fortnite.
No.
Yeah,
My only
I own
experience
PUBG.
is seeing it in stores.
yeah, I did.
See
own
it,
PUBG,
see it on
but
the
I've never
PlayStation
wanted to
Store.
play.
See it on
Oh,
the
yeah.
Epic Store. That's it.
You can get it on your phone now, and
Oh,
by that I mean like a year ago now. I can't remember.
Imagine playing Fortnite on your phone with touch. Oh my god.
build.
I must kids.
Oh, there's some nerdy kids who are using a phone dev kit on the PC so they can mouse aim and win all the phone matches.
Yeah.
Kids must look at us and think, remember Zoolander when they try and use a computer?
Yeah. I mean, Lucy, you were
It's
saying you were
in the
playing a point and
computer.
click. Yeah. Hey. You were saying you were playing a point and click on your phone earlier, and I was like, ugh.
For controller.
Yeah, I was like, no, but my fingers are big and the screen is small. This seems
Oh,
bad.
Yeah, you can never pixel hunt whatsoever. Just smash 12
you can,
pixels
but
at a time.
You go like this.
yeah. Yeah.
It's, I have a
Oh, I
clip.
think I just took it out of airplane mode.
I have a clip that goes on my Xbox controller. It's basically
yeah.
how I can lie down and play it. Lie down in bed and just stare at it. So, yeah.
The dream. Apart from toilet gaming, which the Switch provides us, it needs to be quality bed gaming as well.
Plus, this was a 3D point and click game. Don't forget. I think if it was 2D, I would
yes.
just play it on PC. So.
Good. Well, that rounds out our open world chat in a very different vein. Aadil, what did you want to chat about this week?
Oh, what? I have to say a thing?
You don't have to. We can finish there.
No, yeah, I mean, so I played more of a game I talked about last week. Lucy sat in the background and watched me play Banners of Ruin, and so
Yes.
we'll release that on YouTube, I suspect, as well as a VOD. I might go through and censor my fucks and whatnot, because that's probably better for YouTube. I don't know enough about that stuff, but maybe not.
You did say Fox, though. You did say Fox at least once.
I did say Fox and not Fox, you're right. Maybe I'll just tell YouTube.
Yeah.
I thought the singular of foxes was... I thought it was fox was plural and fuck was the singular. I'm just... English isn't my first language. Canadian English is. No, but I actually did spend... I mean, I won't go into too much detail because I kind of touched on this before, but I did play a little bit of Magic the Gathering Arena with the Jump Start set that I had said was coming out that I wanted to play with. And so I actually think this is a great time for someone to learn Magic, which again I think is best learned online because a lot of the intricate rules are done for you, so you get a feel for like the basics of the game because the computer's making sure you're not screwing up while with cardboard. So I actually played. A friend of mine, Malenko, his flatmates dug up all their old Magic cards because of COVID, and got them all to build decks and play. And he was like, you know how to play? Let's play. And so last Saturday, I met him at a pub, and we played some games on the cardboard, and then it turns out his flatmate didn't. So, a turn is untap, upkeep, draw. Don't worry about it. You do some things. You reset your board state. Some things might happen. You draw a new card, then you can play cards, then you choose to fight, then you can play cards, then the game turn ends, basically. Except he didn't know you could play cards after fighting, which changes a lot of your strategy. So he thought like combat end, and so I was like, no. And it didn't come out right away. I'm like, you must have like, because all like good strategy is like don't spend your mana, don't bring out a creature before you combat unless it does something, because then that mana up could be like a combat spell. But if you spend all your mana and it's just like a big hulking beast that can't fight that turn, then they know you don't have any tricks up your sleeve because you're tapped out. So that's why there's a post-combat main phase. But obviously, if you don't know that, you're like, a lot of the strategery of when to do things is lost. So it was like, so I did like a mini tutorial of like, oh no, this is the basics of a magic turn. Right. I'm a logician, a teacher, and an old school magic player. And then we were in this bar, and I'm like, God, I am the biggest nerd this bar has ever seen. But he's doing his PhD in philosophy, so like he grabbed a notebook and was taking notes. He's like, yeah, like hold on, wait, like explain, because I'm saying, so there's this interaction here which is important. Like there's this, and he's like, okay, and we were just clearly being philosophers about the whole thing. Anyway, brilliant. So that was fun, and also Paper Magic. Boy, it's fun. I forgot how much fun it was. It is different than online because it takes longer. You have to talk through, I'm doing this will happen. It's so social in a way that Arena even isn't. You're playing with a live person, but all the things happen automatically via the code, right? So you attack with a thing, and then it does all the triggers, and then everyone sees the triggers, and you can react to them, which is really good for strategic play because you get to choose, like you see all the things, they all appear. No one has to be like 7 triggers, and you have to hold that in your own memory. But it's changed. It's not the same when you. It's just a different game. Anyway, so I played a couple rounds of Jump Start, and again, what happens is it's like 2 20-card decks with lands, and themes. So you spend your real currency or in-game earned currency for a round, and a round is to get a deck, which is 2 packs, and it says here are 3 choices. So I picked the blue one that said something about flying, but there was also a black one that said spooky, and a red one that had a theme. I can't remember. I think it was goblins. And then you pick another pack, and it was white. It actually gave me a double up. It was white, spooky, and something else, and it was like white flyers and blue flyers is a classic Magic archetype. It's my first time playing Jumpstart. I'll just play blue, white flyers. But the whole point is you can kind of mix and match, and like all the hard part of designing a deck is taken away because it just gives you these 40 cards that have lands, so it just shuffles them together, and then you play. And you can take a look at them to get some notion of like what the decks are, but it's just really simple, fun. It reminds me of when I first started playing Magic and just didn't understand like the depth of strategy. And I was just making decks that were just like kitchen table Magic is what people call it. Which is like, I mean, I was born in 1983. Magic came out in 94. I think I started playing in 95 and 96. And we just like, you got cards and you like, these ones look fun because of the art or because I like red. So I'll play my red cards. And they don't have good synergies. And I'm not trying to figure out the optimal turn 4 kill. I'm just playing these things. And like, with Malenko, his housemates are like, no one's going to spend more than 12 quid a month. But also, here's all this backlog of just generic cards this housemate had. So just make a deck. So like the power level was super low. I just bought a handful of packs online and then just like, cool. I'll make 2 or 3 decks out of these packs. And my power level will be curbed by what cards do I have? And not a lot, right? So it was like, I guess, like I don't really like green red, but my best cards were those, so my best deck was a green red. Cool. And the same thing as Jumpstart. You're just kind of handed cards, and you can get a feel for just playing. And like for anyone who's interested in starting Magic, I think that's a really good way to start because you do earn new interesting cards. And like I said, it's not a lot of money or earned currency per trial, and you can play as many times as you want with that deck. But you get rewards for your first win and your second win, which like I played twice. I got a win and a loss. So you get a free rare card that is from the Jumpstart collection to be added permanently into your collection, along with the cards like the deck you picked. For one win, you pick you win a second time, you get another free rare. Then you can choose to resign and then spend another 2,000 in-game currency or whatever, and pick another 2 things to mash together. Again,
basically.
Yeah, and some of it's like super standard things in Magic, that like tribes, which are like goblins, elves, devils, etc. But sometimes it's spooky and doctor, and it turns out doctor is like gain life mechanics. Makes sense in retrospect, but I like that unless you like look it up online, you're like, sure, spooky. I want spooky goblins, and then it turns out it's like it's not zombies and goblins, but it's definitely graveyard stuff and
Ghosts
goblins.
and goblins. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Ooh.
So it's nice, and also like the set's balanced enough that like it's very rare you're gonna have like an OP pairing. So like you play a couple rounds, you'll win a couple times, right? Like there's no way. Yeah, well, like unless you really punt, but like your card, because like one of the problems with Magic is if someone just has better cards, even if you're like a great player and really strategic, if you just don't have cards that are of that power level, you will probably lose. It's like the perennial problem of Magic, which is why they have all kinds of like game types. And so jump starts are a really good way of just ameliorating all of that. Because it's like you're picking vague themes, and then you're all playing at kind of the same power level. And so even if you're really good, like even if everyone you play is better than you strategically because they know the game better, sometimes your draws will just make you win. So it feels it's exactly why I loved Magic when I started, and why every time I got back in, it's like that first rush of, this is just a fun game that sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, and you look at cool art, and you do these weird things. And sometimes you can think of an interesting interaction, and you're like, haha, but if I do this, it undoes your thing, and I gotcha. And you can still do those things, but those gotchas aren't, and now you're fucked, and you're gonna die. So if you are interested in the game, I fully recommend coming on. I guess the worst part is you have to put... So the best part about Arena is it gives you a bunch of handful of decks you can just play when you first sign up. But Jump Start isn't part of that, so...
Right.
But if you just play a little bit every day, it gives you the non-viable currency. So it's like, so it gives you a few decks of each color, like a deck with at least each color, and then your in-game quests will be like cast 20 blue or white spells. So you just play your blue or white things, and even if you lose, it then gives you like 500 gold. So your daily quests give you quite a bit of gold, so which means if you just sort of like play a few rounds a day for a couple days, you can then do a full buy into Jumpstart. And like even if you're not stuck to only playing until 2 wins, you play until you're bored with the deck.
Sure.
And because so you like the one problem with playing sort of on the open rank thing is people will have better collections, so you might not have fun. But again, it might be worth it. You like this deck, just play 17 games with that deck, because the people who are playing are all going to have similar power level, rather than playing with the stock decks against people who have added a few cards and are probably better. But yeah, so that's basically me rambling about Magic in person for the first time for me in a long time, but also for most people is a rarity.
Yeah.
So I think I'll probably end up streaming some Arena in the future, because I just like the game more than I realized.
Nice. Good. I don't think
It's
I
nice
played...
to have something to fall back on.
It is.
Comfort food.
Yeah.
So I've actually ordered some Jump Start packs. They're on like in person, because I think I would just keep them as those. And that way, if someone's interested or wants to play a game, it's like I can teach you the basics, and then let's just pick 2 of these random things and play. And even after you open them, you can always re-separate them, and then they're all going to always be on hand as well balanced. And then you can try different combinations, right? I think that'd be a really neat thing to have as kind of like a board night game version of Magic, where it's like I can teach you the basics. Like there are two casting phases on either side of combat, and then if you're interested, maybe you can play more. But also, you got a friend over. Hey, let's try this card game.
I always remember playing kind of Magic years and years ago. The last time I played was like when Planeswalkers had kind of just come out. That must be like 15, even more than that, 17, 18 years ago, something like that. Jesus.
Were they there in Zendikar?
No.
Do you remember
maybe
the block?
Maybe it wasn't quite that far. Maybe it was about 15-ish years ago. It was about 2021, something like that. But yeah, just being not overwhelmed by it, but just being like, this is definitely something else. So having a slightly streamlined version, which you can kind of be given a couple of, not pre-built, but a couple of sets which kind of work very well together, would definitely appeal to me, at least, to kind of get back into it as something new to kind of experience. I always remember having played a little bit of Magic around that time. That's roughly when Blizzard put out on. They didn't put out Hearthstone, but they put out a physical card version, which was called something like Blizzard Heroes or something like that. And it was like the precursor to Hearthstone, where you had a hero, and you kind of built your deck around them. And actually, that being a little bit more easy to get into and understand kind of the mechanics and things like that, which then later to turn into Hearthstone. And it's kind of okay to have a digital version of this, but actually I think if I wanted to play this again, a physical version would definitely be the way I'd want to go with it.
Right.
I miss the smell of like cards,
like freshly cracked.
Yeah, that's a good smell.
Oh, it is. Yeah, I mean, so I mean,
it's always the same as a new book.
Yeah, kind
smell
of.
of a
Right?
new
It's
book.
that
I like that smell of
clinical, papery, cardboardy smell. Yeah. So like, I bought like a pre-con and then a handful of booster packs and one of those things like a deck builder's toolkit, just because I was like, oh, this is hilarious. I could buy. I would have to buy land, which I've never you don't, because you always have too many. It was like I have 0 cards in this country. I have a few from the last time I played Magic with friends in Canada a million years ago, and then my old collection is maybe around in within Adam's collection that's being held by a friend in case his son ever wants to pick him up. But it was just like, oh, I guess I'll buy the deck builder's toolkit, which is like, here's a bunch of land and some trash commons and uncommons, which is great if you want to build a deck for the first time because there's a space for them. But it was like, and then I just bought like a few booster packs. But it's like, I'm paying for land. This is so stupid. These things are not worth anything. But anyway, yeah. So I got to crack packs and like that. God, it is so wonderfully human, but also very sad. But it's like, this feels good. I see why people continually buy these just for the like. It smells like that smell, and that like, smell. What did I get?
What did I get? Yeah.
This rare is actually good. This is great. What if I did this again and got another good rare? Or worse, this rare is not good. Oh, I should do this again and get a good rare. Oh no, both of these lead me to want to do it again.
It was those. The good cards always felt better as well. Shiny Pokemon.
Yeah.
Shiny Pokemon cards.
Mate. Yeah, whenever you used to get a club badge or a stadium on your Premier League Merlin stickers, that was fucking key. That's what you wanted every single pack. Yes, let's finish there for this week. Aadil, you and I have had a couple of beers each.
Yeah.
Did you have a preference this week?
It's kind of tough. I think it's going to be the Resonance. It was a little. It felt a little more polarizing for me. But I think ultimately it was more interesting, and once I got used to that, I think the key is that once I got used to that taste. Sorry,
it resonated with you.
Hey, yeah, not really. Actually, I had to resonate with it. I think was the weird thing. Okay. I had to get used to it. I had to take it on its own terms because that gear shift was interesting, but also jarring. And so once I got acclimatized to that, it was like, okay, I like the 4, I like the after. They shift much quicker than I'm used to, but there's just more depth there. And also, once I got used to the aftertaste, which again is this really sort of strong cacao bitterness, once I got used to that, because the actual mouthfeel was kind of wet, it was like, oh, I can start sipping this. While because it starts so sort of coconut sweet and ends in that cacao bitterness, for the first, like, I would almost say a third to a half of the beer, I was reaching before I really wanted to, just to like push the bitterness down. And I was like, oh, the sweetness will do. And then once I finally got used to it, then the last half took a while for me to drink. And I think that's the not so sweet spot.
Hey.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about you, Ben? Which beer?
It's a hard one for me this week because both do similar-ish sort of things, and maybe not quite as successfully as I think either of them perhaps wanted. Both nice beers, neither of them exceptional, I don't think. The Of Juice from Three Hills put forward that it was going to be this big, juicy, tropical beer, but it really wasn't. It did build a little bit as I drank it more. There was some soft sort of stone fruits coming through. It wasn't that big, fruity, tropical, juicy beer that they suggested it would be. Really malty and very, very nice for that. The Pipeworks, which was just gave itself as a double IPA, had a kind of a nice taste curve to it. It had a lot going on. It flowed very well. It gave me lots of different things. It kind of started off in that nice sweet kind of clementine, a little bit of mango moving through into that pithy and then bitter sort of finish. Really, really easy. And I think I would actually reach for the Ninja versus Unicorn before I would then reach for the, which was it, Of Juice number 3 from Three Hills. Be interesting to see what Of Juice numbers 1 and 2 were before they then got to 3 and wanted to release this over the kind of like the previous iterations of it. But I think neither beer has put me off in any way picking up more beers from these breweries. But I think Ninja vs. Unicorn from Pipeline Brewing Company, who are Chicago-based, just picks it for me this week.
Nice. Go on, finish. I will say my stupid thing after you.
I was going to say I have seen in the bottle shop more beers from both breweries, but I think I'm going to lean more towards Pipeline based on these two when I make an order next time.
All I was going to say was you picked the beer that sounds like a Jump Start set.
Yes, I can absolutely see that. Red Ninjas versus White Unicorn. Yeah.
My stupid thing to end the podcast is speaking of how popular Halo is, some NFL player got a massive tattoo of Master Chief.
Oh no!
A Polygon story just recently. So yeah, people love that Halo still.
Does it look good?
Yes. Well,
it's not like Master Chief.
It looks like
on his whole back. You know,
it looks like someone did it
head.
with like a ballpoint pen, but it's all right.
Okay. Share that Polygon article, Lucy. Let's all see it.
Posted the link in our chat.
Nice, perfect.
Well,
join us on our Discord then, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to revel in this kind of ridiculousness that we find ourselves in every day and all the shit that we share between us, ridiculous articles and things like that.
I said memes.
Oh, memes.
I just word memes.
Yes. Okay.
Oh no, it looks really good actually.
Good.
Sorry.
The tattoo?
Yeah.
Good.
I'll look at it later.
It looks all right. It looks all right. I think it's because it filled in.
Does it look all right or does it look really good? Because boy, did you change your tune.
No, the picture that was first on like the Twitter video was like the stencil not quite all covered in.
The first round of tattoo.
Yeah,
I gotcha.
Yeah, it looks better. Yeah, fair enough.
Good. Well,
George Kittle.
You can come to our Discord and you can see that with Lucy sharing a link. You can find the Discord link either if you're watching on YouTube within the text below our faces, or pinned on our Facebook page. I believe it's probably on Twitter somewhere. Go to Out of Lives Network on all of those things to see our faces, to see all of the different things that we are currently putting out. Also go to Out of Lives Network on Twitch. You can see a video of Aadil playing Banners of Ruin earlier with Lucy kind of in tow, basically just giving a commentary about the game.
Yeah.
It's a nice exchange between the two of you, I think. And I think these
I had a good time.
These things that are working very well in terms of having a couple of us on stream and just being able to pitch ideas and questions and explore the game kind of between a couple of us. So you may be watching us on Twitch right now. Stick around for other videos at some point in this week, or check out the videos on demand on our Twitch as well. I am at Nova underscore 47. The flow just went
Nova
suddenly.
Nova
I'll do like I did last week. Nova underscore 47. Aadil is
at the Omniarch, TheOmniarch, unless you're on Twitch and want to see my streams that aren't aren't Uil based, and that's the _ Omniarch. I'm also that on all the other things.
Good. And Lucy, you are?
Juicy Loose 9. Really only on Twitter these days. So have a look at the games that I've been playing on there.
Yeah.
I'm going to write a little bit about them.
Nice. And you've been putting out you've been putting out some tweets about the games that you have completed.
Yes, very intermittently. I think I'm around in the 40s.
Ridiculous.
And then I get pretty disheartened because I realise I finish games at a pace that I just can't keep up. I play more games and finish more games than I can write 140 characters about them, so there you go.
That's fair.
Or however many characters it is now, I don't know.
Yeah, 280, maybe?
Too
Who knows these days? Go to outoflives.net as well to look at all of our previous podcasts and listen to our previous podcasts. If you have the time, it'd be really great if you went to your podcast service of choice and gave us a rating and a review. It could just be something like, these guys got no idea what beer is. 5 stars.
Yep, I mean,
that would do.
Like, subscribe, ring the bell, all that garbage, but also leave a review on the other garbage. We value.
Come and chat to us in some kind of way. Let us know what you're drinking. Let us know what you're playing.
Forget the likes and subscribe. Just send me money. You know, in an envelope, unmarked, cash. I'll spray it down when it gets here.
All you need to do is send it to Lucy.
If you're not going to leave a review, do that instead. Yeah.
They know where to send it.
Yeah. It'll find its way here. There's only one.
Brilliant. Good. Well, what a lovely place to end for this week. We have been tanked up. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Ciao.
www.outoflives.net